Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Ginger Gamers Tech. So here I have two controllers. One of them is the original Nvidia Shield controller that was available to purchase with the Nvidia Shield Portable. That was the one that actually had a controller built into it, and the screen was attached. And then the second one is the model that came out for the Nvidia Shield TV Pro. It was one that actually came with it, and if you notice, there's a slight difference here. The original one has a circle, and the newer one has the different shape here. It's the little home button. There are some other differences between these controllers I've noticed, even though they've both been updated to the newest firmware available. For instance, one of them will control the volume on the TV, the Nvidia Shield TV Pro, and one of them will not. I don't exactly know why that is. But what I'd like to do today is I actually want to take them apart, and I want to see if the batteries, number one, are the same, and number two, I want to actually check the model number on the batteries. So we have what looks like a couple small torque bits holding the back on. And I must warn you, I've never taken this apart before. It's probably really corrody inside. These controllers were used in the family room, sort of as like the the main entertainment center, and they weren't always used by the cleanest of hands. In fact, I remember many times my dad was eating fried chicken, and he'd pass me the remote, and I'd be like, Dad, why is there grease all over this? And he's like, oh, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, so be forewarned, these might not be the cleanest controllers inside. I'm not exactly sure, but the screws just kind of spinning. These probably have been dropped a lot, so I wouldn't put it past one or two of these posts, these screw posts, to be broken. But my main concern here is these controllers are, well, one is 5 years old because it came with the Nvidia Shield TV Pro. The other one came with the Nvidia Shield Portable, which is much older than 5 years. So the batteries on them are not really the best. Much the same way that I replaced the battery on my girlfriend's daughter's tablet because her battery wasn't working anymore. It shouldn't be that difficult. I'm hoping that they're not soldered in place. That always complicates things. If you're asking why I'm using this particular screwdriver, I don't have any other star bit this size. Not on me anyway. Alright. So it looks like we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws holding this thing together. Now, I did do a little bit of preliminary research on this controller, and some people said that the battery hadn't gone bad. It was actually the charging port that had gone bad because they had been charged on chargers that were too high of a voltage. I don't know how much truth that is to it, but apparently the affected units have some sort of carbon scoring, which is fairly obvious on the actual charging port. So I guess we'll be able to see that if that's the case. Yeah, let's see if we can get a shot of the writing here. It's a little bit blurry. There we go. Yeah, this last one is just spinning. I don't know if it's actually going to come out or not. And of course, the controller's on the entire time, so it's messing around with the Nvidia Shield on the TV. I never really did have a good way of turning these things off. So I'm pretty sure that one screw is broken. Just making sure I got everything out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 6. So aside from that one that's not coming out, let's break out the trusty flathead we used in the last episode. If we can, yeah, looks like it was just some clips. All right, so there you go, I was right. There's the post for the screw that wasn't coming out. Probably because it was dropped at some point. And the buttons are all nice and grody. Looks like there's 2 screws holding down the D-pad. And we have a ribbon cable, so 2 ribbon cables holding down the top. One of them goes to the touchpad here, and the second one goes to the touchpad here. All right, this doesn't look too difficult here. Before I go disconnecting anything though, I'd like to find the battery plug. All right, so this, I'm pretty sure right here is the battery. So let's see if we can disconnect that. All right, and we have no activity on the actual touch pads anymore. All right, so we're going to very gently lift up these ribbon cable pins. And there's the other one. I foresee these being a little bit of a pain in the butt to put back. Come on. This one just doesn't want to come out very easily. There we go. Alright, so that's what the underside of the controller looks like. And you can see here, this post here is broken, and this post here is broken. It looks like these things aren't as sturdy as I thought. I'm also going to remove this right here, which is the D-pad. It's like it's held down by 2 star bits. And I want to do that because it looks kind of crusty underneath. And I'm going to clean all this. Alright, so it looks like there's 2 small clips here. One here and one here on either side of the D-pad. So we're going to want to push the clip in while we pull upward, which is going to be a little bit difficult. No, not as difficult as I thought. And yes, look, nice and crusty in there. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to take a Q-tip and some alcohol, isopropyl, and we're going to see if we can fix that. Alright, on to what we came here for though. That is the battery itself. I really want to get the part number off of this. Look at those rumble motors. Those are some really nice big rumble motors, aren't they? Alright. It looks like it's just 2 star bits holding it down. Not that big of a deal. Alright, let's make sure there's no more screws though before we start prying anything up. I don't see anything. Just very gently, just sort of feeling around to see if, and it doesn't seem like the battery can come out without removing the main circuit board. That's unfortunate. Because it looks as if the battery is underneath of the main circuit board here, and it just doesn't seem like it wants to come up. You can see that when I pry on it, the circuit board is visibly flexing, which tells me that the circuit board is holding it down. Alright, so there's our little pads. It's not a bad idea to clean those off, as well as the contact points. And then these should pop off as well. You might want to just take all the plastics and make a little alcohol bath and just sit them in the alcohol for a little while. Of course, dry them off thoroughly before you move forward. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws holding down the circuit board. Let's go ahead and disconnect the rumble motors just so those wires are out of the way. These rumble motor wires are kind of delicate, by the way, so don't put too much pressure on them. In fact, I'd recommend getting your fingernails underneath of the plastic edges. And they are not. You know what? I guess we're just going to leave them. It is not coming out. Glad I didn't yank on them wires, because they certainly would have broken. All the screws seem to be the same, by the way. I haven't noticed any variation in thickness or length, really. I could just put them side by side here. I guess one of them is a hair longer, maybe a millimeter. They really all seem to be about the same, which is always nice in a build, so that you don't have to worry about mismatching screws to the wrong holes. Be interesting to see what's underneath this circuit board. I know the newer Nvidia Shield Controller, the one that's all blocky, that one is quite interesting. Probably uses a different battery than this one altogether, I would assume. I've definitely had my fair share of trouble with these controllers. To say the least, the Nvidia Shield controllers have been a very interesting endeavor. They work when they want to. They've gone through so many firmware updates that it's hard for me to actually say, you know, there's anything still wrong with them. Most of it may have been fixed. I always had trouble getting the rumble to work, which I thought was a little annoying, especially on the pass-through. I would notice that I'd be playing a game for my streaming service, and or from my computer, and I know the game has rumble, but it won't rumble. And I always kind of wondered, does this controller even have rumble motors? Well, yeah. As you can see, it has 2 giant rumble motors. All right. So it looks as though some of those screws that we removed were not holding down the actual circuit board. So some of them were holding down the triggers. So if you are following this on the video and you plan to take it apart, it looks like this screw here. So let's see if I can, this one, this one, this one, and this one are holding down the actual triggers. So those don't need to be removed unless you plan on modifying the triggers. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and replace those real quick because I don't want the triggers to fall off or anything. I'm really not interested in taking those off. Of course, when you're just having an experiment and you're opening up a controller for the first time, there's going to be small mistakes. You want to make sure that whenever you take something apart, you're very gentle. Because a lot of the times there are ribbon cables and small wires that are very delicate and they have very limited movement space. The Nintendo Switch Joy-Con are an example of that. There is a ribbon cable literally right off the bat as soon as you open the device, which is very delicate, and it has very limited travel space. I've actually broken one of those before, and it was completely by accident. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pull the circuit board aside, and now we should be able to have access to where the battery is, which seems to be a lot bigger than I originally thought. So there's 2 screws here, and then there's also 2 screws here that seem to be holding down the battery compartment. And there we have it. Come to Papa. Or it's glued in. Yep, has a nice big sticky sticker on the back. Alright, let's see if we can get a good view of the numbers written on here. For any of you guys who are looking to replace this battery. So it says it is a model LC18650 2200 milliamp hour, rating 3.6 volt to 7.92 watt hours. It is a lithium ion, and it doesn't look like there's any other information on here that would be that useful. The pin is which is a standard 2-pin battery connector. There's really nothing special about it. I'm going to go ahead and write down these numbers so that when you guys check out the video, you can just copy and paste. We are going to check out the other one too, because I want to see if, number one, I want to see if the batteries are the same. And number two, I want to see if the controllers are the same. I know that the battery is, or the other controller is literally just a revision. So when you have 2 controllers that are almost identical, but they're not, it usually means that one is a revision of the other. Let's go ahead and spend a little time cleaning this real quick while we have the chance. Our Q-tip loaded up with alcohol. Just got crust everywhere. Look at that filth. Of course, having a controller for 5+ years and it being used by everybody in the family. I mean, these controllers might have well have been TV remotes, because that's pretty much what they were. Until Nvidia came out with the remote, which I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I would definitely recommend picking you up one of these. It works with the 2015 Shield, it works with the 2017 Shield, it works with the newest one, the 2019. Runs on 2 AAAs. It's just an amazing little controller. It's probably the best one I've ever used for the Nvidia Shield. It's actually sort of made these controllers obsolete as far as just simply controlling the Shield. Although they do still work very well for the video games themselves, of course. And if you haven't seen, there's another video up on my channel where I swap out the hard drive on the Nvidia Shield 2015 Pro Edition. Go ahead and take a look at that if you're interested in that sort of thing. I swapped it to a solid state hard drive, re-greased the processor, and you know, just all around did general maintenance on it, like cleaning out the crusty fans. And it has really come to life since then. And when I say come to life, I mean it's fast, it's snappy. It really is just like a whole new little machine. All right. So one of the things I'm really interested in cleaning is this, which is grody. Just all kinds of grody. If you guys are curious, by the way, my Nvidia Shield Portable I sold. I had it for, I want to say 5 years, and the battery started to get really bad. The Nintendo Switch had come out by then, and the Nintendo Switch really kind of fulfilled all my handheld needs at that point. As much as I love my little Nvidia Shield Portable, it wouldn't stay on for more than like 30 minutes before I would get a battery low warning. And I decided to sell it. Believe it or not, I sold it for about the same price that I bought it for, which is pretty hilarious when you think about the fact that I had it for 5 years, and I essentially didn't spend any money on it at all. Since it was the same price to sell it as it was to buy it, it was actually a really good investment. It was one of my first forays really into the hacking scene on Android as well. I'm not sure if you guys have hacked any Android devices, but it definitely is interesting to root a device, install a custom firmware, and you know, I found a lot of problems with the custom hacking scene too. For instance, I really noticed that when it comes to hacking devices, it kind of sucks to upgrade your device. So, you know, the Nvidia Shield Portable was a brand new sort of experimental thing, and they were constantly updating it. And so every time they updated it, I had to find a new custom firmware version. And it just got really, really difficult to keep up with. It's actually one of the reasons why I kind of fell out of love with the Android hacking scene. Was not that it was hard, but that the process of having to rehack your devices repeatedly, every single time they did an update, was really annoying. I also had a lot of issues with this particular device in general. The Nvidia Shield Portable had some sort of limited firmware problem where it didn't have enough storage space in the beginning, and some of the later firmware versions had a larger storage size, which basically meant you couldn't flash directly from an old version to the new version. You had to go through one of the updates that would increase the size of the firmware in some weird way. And once you passed that update, then you were at the firmware level where you could actually mess around with stuff. Alright, so we've got some terrible buttons and dirty D-pads. Now we're probably going to have to take this back apart once I purchase the replacement battery, although I don't know what I'm going to get yet. There'll probably be another video on that when I finally do decide. I read a couple forum posts where people said they were able to put a larger battery in the device, some like 3300 milliamp batteries, and I'm kind of curious as to whether I can get away with that as well. It sounds to me like the batteries that they used were very non-standard though. Like one guy was talking about using a vaping battery, which I'm assuming is like a high discharge battery. I don't think these controllers really need a high discharge battery, but I mean, anything to improve the battery life, I guess. The buttons themselves here, like the X, Y, B, A, are actually keyed. So I don't think you can actually put them in the wrong positions. I've noticed that a lot of the controllers, like the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox, and all the different controllers like this, tend to be keyed, which makes them a lot very easy to take apart and put back together, because you don't have to use another controller as a reference point. Alright, so let's clean off the contacts for the buttons. This is just standard maintenance, nothing too amazing. These contacts really do need to be nice and clean. And then also we're going to clean off the underside of the graphite pad. So this is what actually comes in contact with the little metal contacts, which creates the connection point. And that's fairly easy. I'll do both of them. A lot of times what happens is dust and dirt and grime gets underneath of here as you're playing, kind of works its way down into the buttons and starts to clog up the underside, and they don't quite make contact as well as they used to. This is something you can do to any controller, by the way, not just the Nvidia Shield controllers. Alright, so now that we've got the information that we want, we're going to go ahead and put this bad boy back together. So we need to reinstall the battery plate. You know, despite the fact that there's several broken screw plastic rods, it actually is a very sturdy controller on the inside. Nvidia definitely did not cheap out on this. I mean, there is just one circuit board, but they have two very nice beefy rumble motors in here. The triggers alone just look amazing. I'm actually very surprised with how amazing these triggers look. They look like they're analog triggers, but I mean, they've got to be. The way that they work, function, there's no contact point. I didn't know that the Nvidia Shield had analog triggers. And then there's this rubber pad down here that it catches on to make sure it's not like making a loud click noise. I don't know, they really went high dollar. Alright, so let's slide. Actually, you know what? Hold on, one thing we forgot. Let's check this real quick. we're in here, we're cleaning. Might as well get everything nice and clean. All right. Slide those back in. All right, we're not going to connect the battery or anything. Even though my finger was certainly moving toward it, like, must connect battery. It's a good thing this thing has 6 screws holding the controller together, because if it didn't, 2 broken posts would be pretty devastating. Speaking of broken post, we're going to go ahead and put him back in his hole. There's no reason to leave him out. It'll give me somewhere to put the screw in. And if I ever feel like not being lazy, I get some super glue, try and glue that post back on. Main problem with that, though, is I've always noticed that it just doesn't hold. The super glue just tends to pop off. Make sure we try not to forget anything this time like we did in the last video. We did all that work to swap out the hard drive, and then we forgot to plug the hard drive in. All right. Got these go on this one, and there's 2 little holes, 2 little guide holes. It's be pretty difficult to mess that up. This one also has 2 little guide posts. Not sure if you can see them. It's kind of like they kind of stick up, and they just go in the little holes. Fairly easy. And then we're going to take our joysticks, which this one has a little bit of damage here. What if I can pick up some replacements? You just put them back on their posts. Come on, get on your post. Oh, listen to that nice click. All right, so we need to put the D-pad back in its hole. So we gotta take this, and this is keyed as well. All right, let's see, it has 2 little holes there, and then this has the corresponding, and it just kind of clicks back in. That's nice. It's an interesting D-pad. We're going to take our buttons. Like I said, they're keyed, so they won't go into the wrong slots unless you force them. You just have to make sure you get them in the correct positions. There we go. All right, so what's left? We've got the battery terminal here, and then we've got our 2 ribbon cables that we need to make sure we get plugged in. We got 2 more screws for the battery cover anyway. I guess they really didn't want the battery rattling around inside, did they? Not only did they use a huge piece of sticky glue tape, they also covered it up with a black plastic cover with 4 screws holding the cover down. Sometimes screws are magnetic, sometimes they're not. Alright, so 1 screw got stuck, and then we have, should be 5 more for the outside, so we're just going to count them so we don't mess this up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so we have 2 more screws, which means we're missing 2 screw placements. Ah, yes, that's right. So there was 2 screws holding down the D-pad, keeping it from being able to escape the clutches. There's actually 4 screws holding down the touchpad at the top. They definitely didn't want that touchpad at the top going anywhere, did they? Alright, so now's the hard part. We gotta get all these ribbon cables plugged back in. This first one shouldn't be too difficult, simply because it's on the bottom. So ribbon cables always have like a little extra layer of plastic near the connector, which allow you to sort of get the push that you need to get them in their position. If you look, let's see if I can show you this on camera. So see how there's this blue piece right here? This blue piece is the hard piece of plastic that allows you to push the ribbon cable into position. And after you push the ribbon cable in, you need to make sure that you push down the clamp on the back side, which you pulled up in the first place to take the ribbon cable out. Almost done here. Come on. Ribbon cables are always a pain in the butt, especially when they're tight together like this, and it's very difficult to get the room that you need. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and plug the battery in, because that ribbon cable, once we get it in, we might not be able to actually plug in the battery. And there goes all my buttons. Probably should have put those in last, I guess. Alright, so I believe that's in. Doesn't go in very far. That's what kind of confuses you. Like, you get it in, but it's like, okay, well, it's not in very far. Slot. They just slot right in. That's so satisfying. Alright. And we're going to go ahead and close it. fair amount of clips. Alright, now we gotta get the screws back in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I really had wished that these controllers would work on the computer. When they first came out, they were really nice controllers, and I had a lot of fun playing with them on the Nvidia Shield, but it's a little difficult to do anything with them on the computer, since they only worked through the special Bluetooth connection that was only available on the Nvidia Shield TV and the Nvidia Shield Portable. The Nvidia Shield Portable could hook up to the TV, as I'm sure you guys are aware, so I had a lot of fun using the controller on the portable. Now the Nintendo Switch doesn't do emulators, but it does have a lot of old games on it. But I do actually have a device now that I use for emulation, and that is the RG350M. I have a video on that on my channel if you go check that out. It's actually a very nice little handheld, and it's specifically made for emulation. Didn't really cost very much. I got the all aluminum edition, which was more expensive than the cheapo plastic version. And even the all aluminum edition was only about 120 bucks. You can get that off of Alibaba or AliExpress or whatever the name of that service is. I think there's actually a couple different services that go by all those names. Come to think of it. Oh, no. Alright, and we'll just do one shake to make sure we got all the screws. Nothing rattling around inside anymore. And let's go ahead and check to see if it works. Yeah, looks like everything's working just fine. Well guys, I'm going to check out the other one off cam. I don't think the other one has a different battery, but if it does have a different battery, I'll capture that on camera for you guys. Alright, so this is the second controller, the one that was, I think, the newer one. And if you notice right off the bat, the circuit board is black. The circuit board on the other one was, the standard green. Everything else seems to be the same so far, but I just wanted to point out that difference. It's very interesting. Looks like there's some, see if I can focus on that. Looks like there's some kind of scoring right there on where it says charger. Not really sure what that's about. Maybe I charged it with a charger which was too high capacity. I'm not sure. I didn't see that same scoring on the other unit. Of course, there's some right here on this one too. Maybe this one had liquid spilt in it at some point. It wouldn't surprise me knowing my family. Alright, so I'm gonna take a look at the battery. We'll see. Alright, so I've got the battery out on the second unit, and right off the bat you can tell that it's a different color. Just like the circuit board's a different color. So this one is the LC18650 2200 milliamp. Looks to be the same. I could be wrong, but I'll double check the numbers. Seems to be a pretty standard battery. There's another number on the side there. Don't know if that would help. I'll copy that down into the comments as well for you guys. The inside of the other one, there's a couple QR codes here, serial numbers, MAC address, MAC address for my my controller. Please don't hack my controller, guys. As you can see, it's nice and crusty in there. I'm gonna clean that out as well. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys the second battery. Port that, and of course I'm gonna clean it up. I'm fairly certain this is the older one. If you look at the joysticks, this one just has a lot more wear and tear on it. I really don't know though. Looks like somebody dropped it and put a chip on the light there. See that? It's kind of like leaking through. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll probably be doing some more Nvidia Shield videos in the coming future. There's a couple little things that I want to do on the Nvidia Shield TV Pro. I also want to get replacement batteries for these, so I'll do a video on how to replace the battery and which battery that I finally decided upon. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Well, I know you guys just love seeing crusty crustos. So here's the crustiest. Could be Cheeto dust, could be cat vomit. Who knows? Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Just the beautifulest. I'm gonna clean that out. I know you guys want to see me clean that out, because you guys love seeing nasty, crusty things get cleaned out. Ugh. Look at that. This is gonna be a bonus just for you guys that watch till the end. There we go. Nice and clean. No more Cheeto dust, cat vomit, whatever that was. Yeah, I feel better now.